Admiral William Carter looked out from the big window on Luna Base Alpha. The blue and green Earth sat below him, peaceful and bright against the black of space. 50 years had passed since the last big war on Earth. During that time, people had focused on exploring space instead of fighting each other. The Deep Space Monitoring Network spread from Mercury all the way to the edge of the solar system. For years, these sensors had picked up nothing unusual, just the normal background noise of space. That all changed at 3:47 in the morning. Dr. Eleanor Wright ran into his office without knocking. Her face was flushed and she was breathing hard. In her hand, she held a tablet with strange readings on it. "Admiral, you need to see this right now," she said. Her voice shook with excitement. Carter took the tablet. At first, the data made no sense to him, just a series of peaks and valleys on a graph. "What am I looking at, Doctor?" "A signal, sir, from beyond our solar system." Eleanor tapped the screen, bringing up a different view. "And it's definitely artificial." Carter's heart beat faster. Humanity had been searching for signs of alien life for centuries. They had found simple organisms on Mars and Europa, but never anything that could build technology or send signals. "Are you certain?" he asked. "Yes, sir. Our computers have been analyzing it for the past hour. It's too regular to be natural. And there's more." She took a deep breath. "We think it's a distress call." Carter stared at her. "A distress call?" "Yes, sir. The signal has patterns that match what we would use to call for help. And..." She hesitated. "Go on, Doctor." "The translation team believes it's asking for military assistance." Carter stood very still. His mind raced with the implications. If this was real, it would change everything. Humanity would no longer be alone in the universe. But the first contact might not be peaceful explorers. It might be a war. "Tell me everything," he said. Eleanor nodded and began to explain. The signal contained coordinates to a star system about 30 light-years from Earth. It also had a short message that their best linguists were still working to translate fully. But the basic meaning was clear enough. An aggressive species, called the Krell, was attacking and conquering worlds. A group of different alien species was fighting back, but they were losing. They needed help. Military help. Carter walked to the window again, thinking hard. Humanity had built impressive ships over the past 50 years, but they were meant for exploration and science, not war. Yes, they had weapons. Earth wasn't foolish enough to venture into space unprotected, but they had never fought an interstellar battle. "Who else knows about this?" he asked. "Just my team and now you, sir." Carter nodded. "Keep it that way for now. I need to call an emergency meeting of the Security Council." Within 3 hours, the leaders of Earth's united government sat around a large table. Some were physically present. Others appeared as holograms from various parts of Earth. Carter and Eleanor explained what they had found. The debate that followed was intense. Some leaders wanted nothing to do with an alien war. Why risk humanity's safety for strangers? Others argued that they had a moral duty to help. And a few pointed out the practical reality. If these Krell were as dangerous as the message suggested, Earth might eventually face them anyway. Captain Alice Bennett, who commanded the scout ship UEF Pathfinder, spoke up from her position near the door. "If I may, counselors," she said, her voice clear and firm. "I've spent most of my life in deep space. Out there we have a rule. You always answer a distress call. Because someday, you might be the one sending it." Her words hung in the air. The council members looked at each other. "Captain Bennett makes a good point," said the council president. "If we ignore this call today, who will answer when we're the ones asking for help tomorrow?" Slowly, heads began to nod. "What exactly are we considering here?" asked one of the European representatives. "We can't just send our entire fleet blindly into unknown space." "No," agreed Carter. "I suggest we send a small task force first. The Pathfinder is our fastest scout ship. Captain Bennett and her crew could take the first diplomatic team to make contact and assess the situation." Bennett stood straighter. "My ship and crew are ready, sir." "And if the situation is as dire as this message suggests?" asked another counselor. Carter took a deep breath. "Then we begin preparing the rest of the fleet. Our ships may be explorers, but they can be converted for military use if needed. The vote, when it came, was unanimous. Humanity would answer the call. The next week was the busiest of Carter's long career. While Captain Bennett prepared the Pathfinder for its mission, Carter oversaw the early stages of fleet mobilization. Ships were recalled from their missions throughout the solar system. Engineers began drawing up plans to enhance weapon systems and add armor to existing vessels. Dr. Eleanor Wright led the effort to learn more from the alien signal. Each day, her team understood a little more of the alien language. They call themselves the Coalition, she told Carter during one briefing. At least 17 different species working together against the Krell. And what more have you learned about these Krell? Carter asked. Eleanor's face grew serious. Nothing good, sir. From what we can translate, they've destroyed at least 3 inhabited worlds already. They don't seem interested in negotiation or peace. Carter nodded grimly. Then we better be prepared for the worst. On the day the Pathfinder was scheduled to depart, Carter stood in the launch bay of Luna Base Alpha. Captain Bennett and her crew of 20 stood at attention before him. They all wore the blue and silver uniforms of the United Earth Fleet, with a special mission patch showing Earth, reaching out to distant stars. You carry with you humanity's first official greeting to another intelligent species, Carter told them. I wish it could be under more peaceful circumstances. Your primary mission is to establish contact with this coalition and determine how we can best help them. Bennett nodded. And if we encounter these Krell directly, sir? Carter's expression hardened. Use your best judgment, Captain. But remember that you represent all of humanity. We are not aggressors, but we will defend ourselves and our allies if necessary. Understood, sir. Carter looked at each of their faces in turn. Young, men and women the best Earth had to offer, now heading into unknown danger. Good luck and come home safely, he said finally. As the Pathfinder pulled away from the lunar base, Carter felt a strange mix of pride and worry. Humanity was about to step onto a much larger stage. For better or worse, they were now part of a galactic community, and their first act would be to join a war. On the bridge of the Pathfinder, Captain Bennett watched Luna Base shrink behind them. When they were clear of Earth's gravity well, she gave the order. Helm, set course for the provided coordinates. Prepare for faster-than-light jump. Course set, Captain. FTL drive charging. Bennett took one last look at the blue Earth through the view screen. Let's go meet our new neighbors, she said. Jump. The stars stretched into lines as the Pathfinder vanished into the depths of space. Behind it, humanity began to prepare for war. Captain Frank Rodriguez had expected first contact with alien species to be a slow and careful process. He had trained for it, the careful exchanges of greetings, the slow building of trust, the careful sharing of cultural information. He had not expected to arrive in the middle of a battle. Jump complete, announced the navigator. We are in the Proxima Lyrae system. Rodriguez leaned forward in his command chair. Status report. Lieutenant Kim's fingers flew over her console. Sensors show multiple vessels engaged in combat. 7. Large ships attacking 3 defenders. Multiple smaller craft also present. Several orbital stations appear to be on fire. On screen, Rodriguez ordered. The main display lit up with a scene of destruction. A blue-green planet filled one part of the screen. Around it, ships fired at each other. The attacking vessels were black with sharp edges that made them look like weapons even at rest. The defenders were sleeker, with blue-white hulls that reflected the light of the system's sun. Those must be the Krell, Rodriguez said, pointing to the black ships. And those are our coalition allies. Sir, Lieutenant Kim said urgently, the defending vessels are taking heavy damage. One is already disabled, and there appear to be civilian ships trying to evacuate the planet. Rodriguez made his decision quickly. Battle stations, shields up, weapon systems online. Lieutenant Kim, open a channel to the defending vessels. The crew moved with practiced efficiency. The Dauntless had never been in real combat, but they had trained for this moment for months. Channel open, sir, Kim reported. Rodriguez straightened in his chair. This is Captain Frank Rodriguez of the United Earth Fleet vessel Dauntless. We received your coalition's distress call and are here to render assistance. For a moment there was silence. Then the screen changed to show an alien face. It had blue scales and 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern. The alien's expression was hard to read, but its voice, translated by the ship's computer, sounded surprised. "You are humans? From Sol system?" "Affirmative," Rodriguez replied. "We did not expect—" "The message was sent to many systems. None have answered until now." Rodriguez nodded. "Well, we're answering. Hold position and prepare to coordinate." As he spoke, the rest of the human fleet emerged from their FTL jumps. 30 ships arranged in a formation designed to look as intimidating as possible. The alien commander seemed to gather herself. "I am Admiral Vereen of the Lissari Defense Force. We are protecting civilian evacuation ships. The Krell are trying to destroy them." "Understood, Admiral. We'll handle the Krell. Continue your evacuation efforts." Rodriguez turned to his tactical officer, Commander Sofia Diaz. "Analysis?" Diaz studied her screens. "The Krell ships are heavily armed but seem to follow predictable attack patterns. They're focusing most of their firepower on those evacuation ships rather than the military vessels protecting them." "Targeting civilian ships?" Rodriguez frowned. "Not if we can help it. Helm, bring us between the Krell and those civilian vessels. Weapons. Target the lead Krell ship." The Dauntless moved smoothly into position, its massive bulk now blocking the Krell's line of fire to the civilian ships. The rest of the human fleet spread out in a defensive formation. The Krell ships paused their attack, seemingly confused by the new arrivals. "They're scanning us, sir," reported Kim. "Let them look," Rodriguez said. "Weapons, are you locked on target?" "Yes, sir. Main railgun charged and ready. Fire." The Dauntless shuddered slightly as its main weapon discharged. A projectile accelerated. To near light speed, streaked toward the lead Krell vessel. It struck with devastating force. The Krell ship's shields flared brightly, then failed completely. The projectile continued through the ship, leaving a clean hole from one side to the other. For a moment, nothing happened. Then secondary explosions rippled through the damaged vessel. Within seconds, it broke apart. "Direct hit," Diaz reported, unable to keep the surprise from her voice. "Enemy vessel destroyed." The remaining Krell ships immediately changed their formation. 3 turned toward the Dauntless, while the others continued to focus on the civilian ships. "They're targeting us now," Kim said. "Good. That was the idea." Rodriguez opened a channel to the rest of the fleet. "All vessels, engage the Krell ships per Battle Plan Alpha. Protect those civilian ships at all costs." The human fleet moved with coordinated precision. They had practiced these maneuvers countless times. Now, they executed them perfectly. Thus, UF Defiant and UEF Tempest flanked one Krell ship, hitting it from 2 sides at once. The UEF Swift and 3 smaller vessels darted between the Krell formation, drawing fire and confusing their targeting systems. The Krell seemed unprepared for these tactics. Their ships moved in rigid formations, focusing too much firepower on single targets while leaving themselves vulnerable. "Sir, the Krell are transmitting something," Kim reported. "It appears to be in a language our systems can't fully translate." "Let me hear it anyway," Rodriguez ordered. A harsh, grating sound filled the bridge. Even without translation, it sounded angry. "They don't sound happy," Diaz commented. "Good," Rodriguez replied. "Lieutenant Kim, send them this message. This is Captain Rodriguez of Earth. You are attacking civilian vessels and a peaceful planet. Withdraw immediately or face destruction." The Krell response was immediate. All their ships turned toward the human fleet and opened fire. "I guess that's a no," Rodriguez said. "All ships, execute combat pattern Delta." The battle that followed lasted exactly 17 minutes. The Krell ships were powerful, but their tactics were rigid and predictable. Human vessels darted around them, striking from unexpected angles, coordinating their attacks to overwhelm Krell defenses. 3 of the Krell ships were destroyed outright. 2 more were heavily damaged and began to retreat. The final Krell vessel, seeing it was now alone, turned and fled the system. As the human fleet regrouped, Admiral Varine's face appeared on the main screen again. Her four eyes were wide. "The Krell do not retreat," she said simply. "In 30 cycles of war, I have never seen this." Rodriguez shrugged. "First time for everything, Admiral. Your weapons, your tactics, they were not prepared for them." That was the idea. The best advantage in a fight is surprise, and humans are very good at being unpredictable. The aftermath of the battle kept the fleet busy for hours. The human ships helped rescue escape pods from damaged vessels. They provided medical assistance to injured coalition soldiers and civilians. They secured the area in case the Krell returned, with reinforcements. When things had calmed down, Admiral Varine came aboard the Dauntless to meet with Rodriguez in person. She was taller than he expected, nearly 7 feet of blue-scaled alien. Her uniform was decorated with symbols he couldn't read. "Captain Rodriguez," she said, touching her chest in what seemed to be a formal greeting. "The people of Proxima Lyrae thank you and your fleet. Without your arrival, this system would have fallen today." Rodriguez returned the gesture. "We're glad we could help, Admiral, but I suspect this is just the beginning." Varine nodded solemnly. "Indeed. The Krell will return, and in greater numbers. They are not used to defeat." "Then they'll need to get used to it," Rodriguez said firmly. "Because Earth has joined this fight now, and we don't give up easily." As they spoke, reports were already being transmitted back to Earth. The first battle had been a victory. Humanity had proven its worth as an ally, and somewhere in the dark between the stars, the surviving Krell ships carried news back to their masters. A new species had entered, the war, one that fought like no other they had encountered before. The galaxy would never be the same. General Richard Blackwood walked through the massive shipyards of Mars. The red planet had been home to humanity's largest construction facility for over 30 years. Usually these yards built science vessels and cargo ships. Now they hummed with a different kind of energy. For the first time in decades, they were building warships. Blackwood watched as workers swarmed over the hull of the UEF Dauntless. Once Earth's largest explorer vessel, it was now being transformed. Workers removed scientific equipment and installed weapon systems in their place. Other teams added thick armor plating to protect vital systems. "I never thought I'd see this again," said a voice beside him. Blackwood turned to see Commander Olivia Ramirez. She was the best engineer in the fleet and the person in charge of converting the ships. "Neither did I," Blackwood admitted. "How is the work progressing?" "Faster than expected," Ramirez said. She pointed to different parts of the ship. "These vessels were always designed with the potential for military use. The basic structure is already there. We're just waking it up." Blackwood nodded. Earth had learned from its past. Even in times of peace, they prepared for war, just in case. "And the weapon system?" he asked. "Dr. Martinez has been working on those." Ramirez guided Blackwood toward a nearby building. "He's not happy about it, but he's doing amazing work." Inside the lab, Dr. Samuel Martinez stood surrounded by holographic displays. He had spent his career using quantum technology for peaceful purposes. Now he was designing weapons. "Doctor," Blackwood greeted him. "How are you progressing?" Martinez looked tired. Dark circles hung under his eyes. "The railgun systems are ready for installation. They can fire projectiles at 40% of light speed. Nothing the Krell have should be able to withstand that kind of impact." "And the defensive systems?" Martinez tapped a control, bringing up a new display. "The shield technology is working well in simulations. It should absorb or deflect most energy weapons, at least for a while." "Good work," Blackwood said. He could see the conflict in the scientist's eyes. "I know this isn't what you wanted your work used for." Martinez sighed. "No, but if these Krell are as dangerous as we believe, we need every advantage we can get." 2 months after the Pathfinder had left, it returned with alarming news. Captain Bennett had met with the alien coalition. The situation was worse than they had feared. The Krell had already conquered 12 star systems and showed no signs of stopping. "They're not interested in peace," Bennett reported to the Security Council. "They only want conquest, and they're methodical about it. Her ship had brought back representatives from 3 different coalition species. They provided technical data about Krell ships and weapons. The aliens were impressed by human technology but worried about human numbers. "Your ships are advanced," said the alien called Vereen, who had 4 eyes and scaly blue skin. "But the Krell have thousands of vessels. How many can Earth provide?" Admiral Carter had to give the hard truth. "Currently, we have 30 ships being converted for combat roles. Another 50 could be ready within 6 months." The alien representatives looked at each other with expressions that even humans could read as disappointment. "It may not be enough," Vereen said finally. "Numbers aren't everything," Captain Bennett argued. "From what we've seen of Krell tactics, they rely on brute force. They might have more ships, but we can be smarter about how we use ours." The preparations continued with greater urgency. Every day, more ships arrived at the Mars shipyards for a conversion. The factories on Earth worked around the clock, producing weapons, armor, and supplies. Admiral Carter met with General Blackwood and the other fleet commanders daily. They studied the information from the coalition and developed new battle plans. "The Krell expect their enemies to respond in predictable ways," Carter explained during one briefing. "They've never faced humans before. We can use that to our advantage." Meanwhile, Commander Ramirez kept pushing her teams harder. The Dauntless was nearly complete and work had begun on 10 more heavy combat vessels. "We're learning as we go," she told Blackwood during an inspection. "Each conversion is faster than the last." "Good," Blackwood said. "Because time is something we don't have much of." Reports from the front lines of the Coalition Krell War grew more desperate each week. The Krell were pushing deeper into Coalition space, taking 2 more systems. Millions of aliens were fleeing their homes, searching for safety. After 3 months of frantic work, the first wing of Earth's fleet was ready. 30 vessels of various sizes gathered in orbit around Mars. Their hulls gleamed in the sunlight. New weapons bristled from what had once been scientific sensor arrays. The Dauntless was the pride of the fleet. Nearly twice the size of any other ship, it had been transformed from a vessel of exploration to one of war. Its main railgun could fire projectiles that would devastate a small moon. Captain Frank Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the Dauntless, inspecting his crew. They were the best Earth had to offer, explorers and scientists who had trained for combat roles over the past months. "I won't lie to you," he told them. "We're heading into danger unlike anything humanity has faced before. But remember why we're doing this? Not just to protect Earth, but to help others who can't defend themselves." Lieutenant Kate Kim, his communications officer, spoke up. "Have we received our final orders, Captain?" Rodriguez nodded. "We depart tomorrow. The Coalition has provided coordinates to a system currently under Krell attack. We'll make our first jump there and provide immediate assistance." On the day of departure, Admiral Carter came aboard the Dauntless for a final inspection. He walked slowly through the ship, noting the changes. Science labs had become tactical centers. Observation lounges were now filled with weapon control stations. "It's quite a transformation," he said to Rodriguez. "Yes, sir. She's still the same ship at heart, though, just with sharper teeth." Carter nodded. "You understand your mission?" "Yes, sir. Make contact with the Coalition forces in the Proxima Lyrae system. Assist in the defense against Krell forces. Demonstrate humanity's commitment to the Alliance. And remember," Carter added, "this is as much about showing what we can do as it is about the immediate battle. The Coalition needs to see that humans are valuable allies." "We won't let you down, sir." Carter looked around one more time, then extended his hand. "Good hunting, Captain." Later that day, Earth's first combat fleet departed the solar system. 30 ships, led by the massive Dauntless, vanished into faster-than-light travel. On Earth, people watched the news reports with a mixture of pride and fear. For the first time, humanity was taking part in a galactic conflict. "This marks a new chapter in human history," one news anchor said. "Today we are truly citizens of the galaxy." As the fleet traveled toward its destination, Captain Rodriguez reviewed the battle plans one more time. The Krell had never faced human tactics or technology before. This would be humanity's chance to prove itself. FTL jump complete in 3 minutes, reported his navigator. Rodriguez took a deep breath. All hands to battle stations. Weapon systems online. Shields at maximum. The ship hummed around him as it prepared for its first battle. Let's show these Krell what humans can do, he said quietly. The Coalition headquarters orbited a neutron star, hidden in its radiation shadow. This clever position had kept it safe from Krell detection for years. As the Dauntless approached, Rodriguez and his officers stared in wonder at the view on their screens. Hundreds of alien ships moved around a massive space station. They came in all shapes and sizes. Some looked like smooth eggs. Others had rings or long spines. A few seemed to be made of crystal that caught the light of nearby stars. 17 different species, Lieutenant Kim said quietly. According to our briefing materials. Hard to believe they haven't been able to defeat the Krell with this much variety, Commander Diaz commented. Rodriguez nodded. Numbers aren't everything. Sometimes too much variety can make coordination difficult. The Dauntless docked at the main station. Rodriguez led a small team to meet with the Coalition War Council. Admiral Vereen walked beside him explaining what to expect. The Council has representatives from all member species, she said. Some may not believe that your small fleet can make a difference. Then we'll have to convince them, Rodriguez replied. The council chamber was a large, circular room. Seats of different shapes and sizes ringed the walls, designed to accommodate the many different body types of Coalition species. In the center was a holographic display showing a map of the galaxy, with red areas marking Krell-controlled space. There was a lot of red. Admiral Vereen stepped forward. Honored representatives of the Coalition, I present Captain Frank Rodriguez of the United Earth Fleet. The humans destroyed 3 Krell battle cruisers and forced the rest to retreat at Proxima Lyrae. Their technology is different but compatible with ours, and they've brought 30 vessels as an initial commitment. A large being with crystal growths instead of hair leaned forward. Its voice was deep and rumbling even through the translation system. 30 ships? The Krell have thousands. Rodriguez stepped forward. Grand Marshal Zenth, I presume. The crystalline being seemed surprised to be recognized. Yes. Marshal, you're right about the numbers, but wars aren't always won by having the most ships. Sometimes they're won by having the best strategy. Rodriguez gestured to the holographic display. May I? After receiving permission, he approached the map and studied it carefully. The council watched in silence. I noticed something interesting about Krell attack patterns, he said finally. They always follow the same approach. First, they target communication systems, then military vessels, then civilian infrastructure. It's methodical, predictable. Several council members shifted uncomfortably. We've noticed this as well, said another alien, this one with multiple tentacles and a voice like singing bells. But knowing their pattern hasn't helped us stop them. Because you've been fighting defensively, Rodriguez said, reacting to their moves instead of making them react to yours. For 3 days, Rodriguez and his tactical team reviewed the Coalition's battle records. They watched hundreds of recordings of Krell attacks. A pattern became clear. The Krell were advanced, but they lacked creativity. They relied on having more ships and bigger weapons rather than clever tactics. Meanwhile, on Earth, the first reports from the Dauntless had caused a global shift. The victory at Proxima Lyrae proved that humans could fight the Krell effectively. Now, everyone wanted to help. Admiral Carter authorized the activation of more resources. This included the autonomous drone swarms that had been kept in storage since the last war. These small, unmanned craft could overwhelm enemy targeting systems through sheer numbers. Back at Coalition headquarters, Commander Diaz developed a bold, new plan. She presented it to the War Council on the 4th day. The Krell expect submission when they show superior force, she explained. They've never encountered a species that becomes more aggressive when threatened. Her plan was simple but revolutionary. For the Coalition, instead of always defending, they would attack. Not the Krell's main fleets, but their supply lines, communication relays, and outlying bases. Cut off their support structure, Diaz said, pointing to key points on the galactic map. Force them to divert resources to protect these areas. Make them react to us for a change. Some council members objected. This approach was too risky, they argued. The coalition didn't have ships to spare for such attacks. That's where we come in, Rodriguez said. Human ships are faster and more maneuverable than Krell vessels. We can strike quickly and withdraw before they can respond in force. Grand Marshal Zenth studied the humans with all four of his eyes. Your species seems remarkably comfortable with warfare for one so new to the galactic community. Rodriguez met his gaze steadily. We've had our share of conflicts, we learned from them. And one thing we learned is that sometimes the best defense is a strong offense. After much debate, the council agreed to try the new strategy. The human fleet would be reorganized into smaller strike teams. Each team would be joined by a few coalition ships to help with navigation and communication in unfamiliar space. Meanwhile, Rodriguez sent a message back to Earth. Send more ships. As many as you can, as fast as you can. The first test of Commander Diaz's strategy came 2 weeks later. A small group of human and coalition ships attacked a Krell supply depot in an uninhabited system. They destroyed the depot and were gone, before the Krell could respond in force. Similar raids followed. 3 communication relays, a sensor array, a small shipyard. Each target was hit fast and hard, with minimal coalition losses. The Krell response was exactly as Diaz had predicted. They began pulling ships from their frontline fleets to protect their support facilities. This gave the coalition breathing room to reorganize and strengthen their defenses. 6 months after the first human ships had arrived, the war had reached a stalemate. The Krell advance had stopped. Now, both sides were looking for a way to break the deadlock. Admiral Carter arrived at Coalition headquarters aboard the UEF Intrepid, humanity's first purpose-built interstellar battleship. Behind him came a fleet of 300 new vessels. Some were converted explorer ships like the Dauntless. Others were entirely new designs, created specifically to fight the Krell. In a private meeting with Rodriguez, Carter revealed Earth's bold new plan. We've been studying the intelligence you've gathered, Carter said, and we think we've found the Krell's weakness. He activated a small holographic projector, showing an enormous space station. It was shaped like a spider, with 8 massive arms extending from a central hub. The Coalition calls it the Voice of Krell, Carter explained. It's their central command structure. All major Krell decisions come from there. Rodriguez stared at the image. And you want to attack it? It must be heavily defended. It is. But our analysts believe it's also their single point of failure. Take out the Voice, and the entire Krell military might fall into disarray. When Rodriguez presented the idea to the War Council, Grand Marshal Zenth was the first to object. The Krell homeworld? Impossible. Their core systems have defenses we cannot hope to penetrate. Not their homeworld, Rodriguez clarified. Their central command structure, what you call the Voice of Krell. According to your intelligence, it's a massive space station at these coordinates. He brought up the image Carter had shown him. We believe this is where all Krell strategic decisions originate. If we can disable it, even temporarily, it would throw their entire military into confusion. The council debated for days. The plan was incredibly risky. It would require the largest coordinated fleet action in Coalition history. But if it worked, it could turn the tide of the war. In the end, they agreed. 75% of the Coalition's remaining fleet, along with all available human ships, would strike the Voice of Krell. As the massive armada prepared for what might be the decisive battle of the war, Admiral Carter addressed the combined fleet from the bridge of the Intrepid. For too long, the Krell have operated under the assumption that their technological edge guarantees victory. Today, we demonstrate that the most dangerous weapon in the universe isn't a ship or a cannon. It's the indomitable will to remain free. Across the fleet, humans and aliens alike prepared for battle. Their ships were different. Their bodies were different. But they shared one common goal: to end the Krell threat once and for all. Captain Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the Dauntless watching the fleet formation on his screens. It was an impressive sight. ships of 17 different species flying alongside vessels from Earth, united against a common enemy. "All systems ready, Captain," reported Lieutenant Kim. "The fleet is in position." Rodriguez nodded. "Signal Admiral Carter. The Dauntless is ready to make history." The space around the voice of Krell was quiet when the combined human coalition fleet arrived. Too quiet. Admiral Carter, standing on the bridge of the UEF Intrepid, immediately felt uneasy. "Scan for enemy vessels," he ordered. His crew worked quickly, but the results were confusing. "Sir, we're only detecting minimal defenses, just a standard patrol group. Nothing like what we expected." Carter frowned. This enormous station, the heart of Krell military operations, should have been heavily guarded. It could be a trap, warned his second-in-command. Carter considered this possibility. Then he made his decision. "Send in the scout ships. Have them do a detailed scan of the area, and keep our main fleet at a safe distance." 3 small, fast ships moved toward the massive space station. They were designed for stealth and equipped with the best scanning technology Earth had to offer. 20 minutes later, they returned with their report. There were no hidden Krell fleets, no ambush waiting to be sprung. The voice of Krell was, indeed, lightly defended. "They never expected anyone to find this place, let alone attack it," Grand Marshal Zenth said when Carter shared the information. "The Krell believed themselves invincible." "Then let's prove them wrong," Carter replied. He opened a channel to the entire fleet. "All vessels, move into attack formation. Prepare to engage the Krell defenses." The battle began. The Krell patrol ships fought desperately, but they were overwhelmed by the sheer number of coalition and human vessels. Within an hour, the path to the voice of Krell was clear. "Boarding teams prepare for deployment," Carter ordered. The plan called for small teams to enter the station and disable its key systems. Captain Rodriguez would lead the main human team. Grand Marshal Zenth himself would command the coalition forces. Rodriguez and his team gathered in the Dauntless's launch bay. They wore heavy armor suits designed for space combat. Each carried weapons specifically created to fight the Krell. "Remember," Rodriguez told them, "our goal is to reach the central control room. We disable their command systems, then get out. The coalition technical team will extract all the data they can." The boarding shuttles launched, flying toward the massive station. Krell defense turrets fired at them, but most were already disabled by the fleet's attack. Rodriguez's shuttle docked at a service entrance on one of the 8 arms of the station. Cutting tools made short work of the sealed door, and the human team entered the Krell stronghold. Inside, they faced their first Krell warriors. The aliens were tall and thin, with 4 arms and skin like polished obsidian. They carried energy, weapons that fired beams of intense heat. The fight was brief but fierce. Human armor deflected most of the Krell weapons' energy, while human guns fired projectiles that the Krell had no defense against. "Move forward," Rodriguez ordered when the last Krell fell. "Stay in formation." They fought their way through level after level of the station. The Krell defenders were clearly confused, their responses disorganized. It seemed they had no plan for dealing with intruders this deep in their territory. Meanwhile, other boarding teams were having similar success. Grand Marshal Zenth's forces had secured 3 of the station's 8 arms. Coalition technical teams were already downloading Krell data. After 2 hours of fighting, Rodriguez's team reached the central hub of the station. Here, resistance was heavier. Elite Krell guards fought with a discipline lacking in the others. "They're protecting something important," Rodriguez said as his team took cover behind a barricade. "This has to be the way to the control center." Using coordinated tactics, the human team flanked the Krell position. The fighting was intense, but eventually the last defender fell. Beyond the final door, Rodriguez and his team found something unexpected. Instead of a room full of Krell commanders, they found a vast chamber dominated by a glowing pillar of light. Inside the pillar, patterns of energy shifted and changed. "What is this?" asked one of the team members. Dr. Eleanor Wright had joined the mission as their technical expert. She studied the glowing pillar with a mixture of awe and concern. "It's an artificial intelligence," she said finally. "An extremely advanced one. I think I think this is the voice of Krell. Rodriguez stared at the pillar. You're saying their entire empire is run by a computer? Not just a computer, Wright replied. This is far more complex. It's more like a mind. Before they could discuss it further, Grand Marshal Zenth and his team arrived. The crystalline alien approached the pillar slowly. So this is the enemy that has caused so much suffering, he said quietly. Not the Krell themselves, but this thing that controls them. Wright was examining the systems connected to the AI core. It's fascinating. According to these readings, the AI has been collecting data from every planet the Krell conquer. Cultural information, scientific knowledge, historical records, everything. They're not conquerors, Wright realized. They're collectors. The AI has been absorbing the knowledge and culture of every species they subjugate. Rodriguez considered this information. Can we shut it down? Yes, Wright said, but we should copy its data first. There's knowledge here from dozens of civilizations, some of which might not exist anymore. While Wright and the technical team worked, Rodriguez received reports from throughout the station. All 8 arms had been secured. Krell resistance was crumbling, and most surprisingly, many of the Krell had simply surrendered when they learned the voice had been captured. They're completely dependent on it, Zenth observed. Without the voice directing them, they don't know what to do. 9 hours after, the battle began. Admiral Carter joined them in the central chamber. He looked tired but satisfied. We're receiving reports from across Krell space, he told them. Their fleets are in disarray. Some are retreating to their homeworld. Others are simply holding position, awaiting orders that will never come. He looked at the glowing pillar, now dimmed as the technical teams drained its power. Is this what we've been fighting all this time? Yes, Wright said. An artificial intelligence that saw the galaxy as nothing but a source of information to be harvested. The Krell themselves seemed to have been its tools rather than its masters. In the days that followed, the full impact of their victory became clear. Without the voice directing them, the Krell military fell apart. Some ships continued fighting, but without coordination, they were easily defeated. Many Krell simply surrendered, seemingly relieved to be free of the voice's control. 1 month after the battle, representatives from Earth and the Coalition met on the neutral world of Centauri Prime to discuss the future. The war wasn't completely over. There were still Krell hardliners fighting in some systems, but the worst was past. We need to establish a new order, Admiral Carter said to the gathered delegates. One that ensures peace and cooperation between all our species. Grand Marshal Zenth agreed. And we must decide what to do with the Krell. They were as much victims of the voice as we were. The discussions would continue for months. There were hard questions to answer and old wounds to heal. But for the first time in decades, the species of the Coalition looked to the future with hope rather than fear. On the observation deck of the Dauntless, now orbiting Centauri Prime, Captain Rodriguez stood with Commander Diaz, watching the ships of many different worlds moving peacefully through space. One distress call, Rodriguez mused. That's all it took to change everything. Diaz nodded. And to think we almost didn't answer it. I'm glad we did, Rodriguez said. We discovered we're not alone in the universe, and more importantly, we discovered that humans have something valuable to offer the galactic community. Our fighting spirit? Diaz asked with a small smile. That, yes, but also our creativity, our unpredictability, our willingness to try new approaches when the old ones fail. He gestured to the ships outside the window. Look at them all. 17 different species, each with their own strengths and weaknesses. Together, we're stronger than we ever could be apart. A message came through on Rodriguez's communicator. Another coalition species had just arrived to join the peace talks. This one was new. They had been hiding from the Krell for generations, and only now felt safe enough to reveal themselves. Duty calls, Rodriguez said. Let's go meet our new neighbors. As they walked away from the window, both officers knew that humanity had found its place among the stars. Not just as warriors, though they had proven their worth in battle, but as partners, allies, and friends to the many peoples of the galaxy. The universe was vast and full of wonders, and humanity was ready to explore it all.